Ladies and gentlemen, we will be starting our candidates for mayor. As a reminder, numbers were drawn ahead of the forum to do seating placement. Mr. Gonzalez is in seat number 1. Mr. Liu is in seat number 2. We will start with an opening statement. You will have 1 minute for an opening statement. At 30 seconds, you will hear a soft bell, and at the minute, you will hear the harder bell. When answering questions, we'll have 1 minute each. You will not get the soft bell. You will just get the 1 minute timer. Mr. Gonzalez, opening statement.
And before we start, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Liu, Mr. Shield, at some given points, I may have to just stand up because I do have damage in my tailbone. I don't want to be disrespectful to Mr. Liu or the moderator, but sometimes I have to stand up because of damage in my tailbone. So.
Thank you for that point of clarification. Mr. Gonzalez? Opening statement.
Okay, thank you. I am Mayor Robert Gonzalez. I want to thank the League of Women Voters and as well as the Chamber of Commerce for hosting this forum this evening. I would like to thank all of you here in the audience for being here, taking the time out of your busy schedules to attend this important event. I am a lifelong resident, 52 years. I'm educated locally at Mountain View Elementary, Slauson Junior High, when it was a junior high, and Gladstone High School. I have proudly served on this council since 2007 and mayor since 2020. As an Azusan, we have seen tremendous growth in our beautiful city, and we now have the momentum to continue moving Azusa forward. We have an economic outlook. We have a deep understanding of our history and culture and addressing the quality of life issues. I am proud of our past councils, and I look forward to supporting and working with our current councils to keep Azusa moving forward. Thank you all for being here this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Mr. Liu?
Hello, Azusa. My name is Johnny Liu. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, League of Women Voters of San Gabriel Valley. And thank you so much for the Chamber of Commerce, Steve and Mercedes, for hosting this event. My name is Johnny Liu, and I have been a resident of Azusa for 17 years. I moved here in 2005, and I started working at Azusa Pacific University, counseling college students for 10 years. While I was counseling college students, I was wondering, hey, is there a great coffee shop or place to go and hang out? And so I took 3 years to open a coffee shop in downtown Azusa, where I have been proudly ministering to the community for the last 7 years. It is my privilege to be running for mayor second time around. A lot has not happened as we have anticipated as a society, and I'm ready to bring the vision and the clear direction to lead our city into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Liu. We'll be going into the question portion of the forum. We'll be starting with you, Mr. Liu. These questions surround small business. This is a two-part question. What is your plan to support new small businesses in the area, and how do you plan to attract new small businesses to Azusa?
Thank you. I've actually met with the developers of the Orchard, in which, we were talking about how come all the businesses are vacant. You'll see from my answers that are very specific. I am hoping to incentivize new small businesses to come by doing a small business incubation program. How that will work is if you are an Azusan and you are excited to open a new business, apply. And let's get you paired up with a local business owner, 12-week program, and then we will waive these fees for you. Anyone who's ever opened a business here knows fees, fees, fees. Well, we will waive these fees for you, especially in your first year. We'll make sure to give you rebates for the utilities as well. And I just want to make sure that we know that we're reaching out to small businesses, not big corporations, with this idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gonzalez, would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
What is your plan to support new small business in Azusa, and how do you plan to attract new small businesses to Azusa?
That's a great question. In 2017, as a member of this council, we implemented a tiering process for, as you know, we own our own light and water. And if you have a utility, we actually would subsidize some of those utilities for you at 15%. over the next 3 years. So in essence, that's a 45% savings for a new business that started their business, because we know as you start a new business, it's difficult in those first couple of years to generate your infrastructure. And so we, as a council, are very proud of that we started that program. But now I would like to move a little bit further in looking at a business enhancement district, or business improvement, a BID they call it. And I know we've talked about it from previous councils, and I would mention that Councilmember Macias, that was one of his pet projects, and that we would look to continue that conversation with my current council and to use that and enhance the downtown businesses with a business improvement district. That means they would assess themselves and basically improve their own areas. So thank you.
Thank you. Along those same lines, Mr. Gonzalez, we will start with you. Not only is it important to attract new small businesses to Azusa, but how do you plan to support businesses that are struggling to stay open here in Azusa?
That's a great question as well. As you know, starting any type of business anywhere at any time is always difficult. We have seen, because of the pandemic, and now that we're coming out of it, there's not a lot of room for error, especially the types of business that we're seeing here and what we're attracting. My previous colleagues had mentioned that we did do a support grant program at $500,000 from ARPA, but there is more work to do. I think partnering up with the Chamber of Commerce is a very important olive branch that we need to continue to support them so they can be our liaison to the business community. We're always looking at innovative ways to promote our branding here in the downtown, but not just the downtown, but citywide. And so we have a great staff that does a good job with enhancing our business outlook and supporting. Like I said, we own our own light and water, so we can control a lot of that destiny. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Mr. Liu, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, it's okay. Thank you. As a small business owner during the pandemic, I found it very difficult to thrive. It was discouraging to hear a lot of other cities neighboring us partner with their Chamber of Commerce to disseminate the American Rescue Plan funds. Meanwhile, my little coffee shop and many of the new businesses that have opened, such as Preston Flower and also Summer Solstice, we struggled. So to hear that we're trying to support small businesses is difficult sometimes. My plan would be that we would disseminate the $1.9 million actually earmarked for small businesses that they keep saying is for the homeless. Keep in mind that 1.9 is from the American Rescue Plan, and it's right now sitting in our general funds, untapped. I have a problem with this, and so we will be disseminating this, and I would love to work with the Chamber in order to do so. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Liu. Next question will begin with you. What businesses are you planning to see in the orchard?
Yes, thank you so much. I have met with the developers, and it's really exciting. There's actually a lot of really great businesses coming. So I met with Jacques and Corey. They're trying to open a wine bar. That will be very exciting. There is a Thai restaurant coming into town. For me, personally, if I were to see anything, love to see a cocktail bar. You know, there's something here centering around cocktails that I believe would be really nice. I personally am envisioning a cocktail bar with a loft area in which we're going to be able to host small private meetings, various small birthday gatherings, etc., and am working with the developers to negotiate a lease so that we can open sooner than later.
Thank you, Mr. Liu. Mr. Gonzalez?
Thank you. And a lot of the tenant agreements that we are understanding from the developer are still under negotiation, so a lot of them cannot be disseminated because, quite frankly, they're still under their previous leases. But I would also like to see something that would attract, something in the entertainment field. We all know that the Lemley Theater is not coming. So to do just a sales brand or retail is not going to work. We did have the option a number of years ago when the developer came to us and said we were looking to do a 24-hour fitness. And I remember distinctly at this chair saying, no, We don't want a 24-hour fitness. We had a wrestling match 6 years ago. You all remember that, the Lemley bowling concept? And that sound was the entertainment aspect. We want entertainment. We want a draw. We have two colleges to the east of us. How do you get them into the downtown? How do you get them to come here? How do you get them to come off the goal line and say, I want to go into downtown and stay there, not just at 9 o'clock, but till a little bit later and respectful of our neighbors? Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. This question is directed directly to you. What have been your major accomplishments as our mayor?
Well, I would probably say getting us through the pandemic. When I took office, the oath of office in March of 2020, we were already in the midst of the COVID-19. Matter of fact, this chamber was empty, and I couldn't have my family here and celebrate that moment. But to actually get a pandemic and thrown in my lap was probably my most championing event, or with our colleagues working with my council. And know the aspect that my survival itself from the COVID-19, that's probably my greatest feat of living. I shouldn't even be here, but I'm here, and the good Lord has a longer road for me, and that's how I look at it, and that's how I appreciate it. I appreciate my colleagues and the hard work that we've done, but the response to the COVID-19 would be one of my shining moments with this community.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Mr. Liu, if you could tell us what are your major goals you would want to accomplish as mayor?
Right, thank you so much. First, it would be to house the unhoused. We have heard over and over again that the Supreme Court has made it unconstitutional if we have no viable options for them to go. I'm not sure how long we need to wait until there's a bed space. I think the frustrating part is that we've waited for a long time and there has yet to be plans. So this is my plan. I met with Baldwin Park's mayor, in which we heard earlier, their homeless population has decreased by 50%. They've used state and regional funds to build a tiny home community that is specifically catered towards our demographic that we can choose. So we can use state funds to create a tiny home community for women and children. We could use that for our disabled veterans. That would be a great place to start as my first number one option.
And I apologize, but that was a different question that you asked Mr. Liu. You'd asked about accomplishments and you asked what goals. So I'm just kind of clarity was, if there's goals and accomplishments are two different things, just for clarity.
Got it. He is unable to answer the question as he hasn't been sitting as mayor. We stopped about accomplishments.
Okay.
What can be accomplished as a mayor? Thank you. Please give specifics. Mr. Liu, we'll start with you. Please give specifics as to how you would handle the homeless problem.
This will be part two. In addition to having the tiny home communities, again, Baldwin Park has had two in the last 2 years. I would want to enhance our Family and Teen Resource Center to add resources. Could you imagine if we came together as a community, we had a place to donate clothing and food? And on top of that, local businesses can donate too. Haircuts, meals. So alongside housing the homeless, we're also going to train them and provide for them. Again, the incubation program, the mentoring programs, teaching people how to go through resumes and job interviews. And as an immigrant myself, it would be really nice to also come alongside and help them get their green card status should they need it. I think, again, I'm speaking very specifically because these problems have been so generalized that we need to remember that it's not a homeless problem. These are our neighbors that need to be housed. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gonzalez, would you like to maybe repeat
Yes,
the question? Please give specifics as how you would handle the homelessness problem.
Well, and that's a great question. And to answer it in 1 minute, I'm going to do the best I can. This issue is quite dynamic, and me sitting on a number of regional boards, I have a front row seat to a lot of discussions. And for us is we know that we did our own city count, which is called CityNet, which is we labeled at 181 homeless folks was the 2022 count. LASA gave us 220 individuals. As we look at the models that have been around that are successful and not successful, the question is, my opponent wants to use the Baldwin Park model. Well, that's fine, but that took Measure H money. And Measure H money now says, if you take our dollar, you take our homeless. And so are we going to accept everybody else's homeless or deal with the 181 that I have here in my community? Baldwin Park's template, that's great for good for Baldwin Park. I want to be able to house what we have here in our community. Councilmember Alvarez mentioned the Whittier template. They did it on their own. They financed their own homeless shelter, and now they deal with their own homeless population. That's what I want to do.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Next question will begin with you. As housing projects keep going up in the city of Azusa, what are your plans to ensure that the young adults in the city are able to afford and have access to this housing?
Great question. And as we built the orchard, and I'll give you the prime example because that's the newest one, we had a number of public hearings during that process 6 years ago, several years ago. Public hearing after public hearing saying, how is this going to look? How is this going to taste and smell? What is the population that's going to go in there? And through those public hearings, we heard loud and clear that Azusa residents won't be able to move in there. Well, you guys were wrong. There is, out of 162 units, 100 plus units are there. It's 75% complete, with full completion of rental of that orchard will be done by the first quarter of next year. So that is one of the successes of that particular project, with Illumia coming right behind it, that we broke ground in February of 2022. That will be another place, a place of technology, a place where folks can get off and do a walkable community. Those are the successes that we're looking forward to.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Mr. Liu, would you like me to repeat the question?
Sure, thank you.
As housing projects keep going up in the city of Azusa, what are your plans to ensure that young adults in the city are able to afford and have access to this housing?
Right. Thank you. To be simple, I would say stop building luxury apartments that none of us can afford. It's been really frustrating to see rents be anywhere from $4,000 to $6,000 to rent. How can anybody afford that? Who was sitting on council when we were approving these buildings? I would also love to provide incentives to make sure that we could keep our people here. Recently, people have been priced out of their own communities, which is called gentrification. What are we doing as a city to provide rental assistance? How are we engaging even the conversation centering around rent control? Are we coming to the table, or are we simply just pushing our community out?
Thank you. Next question will begin with you, Mr. Liu. What are your thoughts on public art? Would you be in support of efforts to improve our downtown aesthetically with public art, much like the downtowns in our surrounding communities?
Thank you so much. Yes, I highly support public art. Murals are beautiful, and I do know that our city staff, they go above and beyond trying to hire and source artists that are local. For example, Azusa Beautiful has worked specifically with local artists to renovate all of the utility boxes. That was such a joy, especially working alongside the chamber, in which they also know local artists. I love walking through our downtown and seeing, especially our metro stations, all filled with local, especially indigenous art. So I'm not so sure if that is, answering the question, but yes, I highly support public art, and I would love to even be a part of those mural programs.
Thank you, Mr. Liu. Mr. Gonzalez, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, thank you for that. I was a part of that council that put that program together. We put a lien on development. So as developers, in lieu of either paying the city in fees, they put money into a arts concession. That's the way we have our own arts commission now. So commissioners that serve will actually serve a secondary position as an arts commission. So as you see developments go in and around town, which is you see the orchard has some artwork there, the metro station has artwork there, has the A artwork. So we've worked very hard to ensure that art in and around our community is assessed and is valued. We will continue to do that. I look forward to continue working with Azusa Beautiful on the utility projects, because that was one of our ideas, to have Azusa Beautiful take over that project. So it looks very well, and I want to continue to do more and more in the city. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Next question will begin with you. How do you feel about using social media to stay connected to residents? Updating the technology spaces, such as the website, to be more relatable and easier to navigate?
For as a city, I think it's extremely important, because we know that the community is now fast on the go and requires stuff right on your phone. You see the folks here, they're probably seeing it on their phones now, watching this forum. So I think that what our staff has been able to do is keep up with technologies. I myself am very old school, and I do what's required. I'm not great at social media, but I do feel that reaching out to residents is extremely important in that aspect. So the information is at a fingertip through Facebook or through other social media means. Whatever you choose to go through, the access and communication is there. So we're fully transparent. We're fully engaged as a city and as a community and as a mayor. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Mr. Liu, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, thank you so much.
Thank you.
In this day and age, if we do not have a robust social media, I think we're going to be left behind in the dust. I myself, I'm just a personal, I'm a mayoral candidate, but I hop on and I'm talking about the city events and the things that are happening in our city. Even today, I posted about this very forum, in which I got a lot of responses saying, I had no idea this was happening. On top of that, even just outside of social media, technology needs to be updated. Here in our city, we're still filling out paperwork in order to pay our transient occupancy taxes. So as you know, there are hotels here and whatnot, and they have to pay 10% of their fees. We have to fill out a piece of paper and scan that and email that in. If that is not archaic, I'm not sure what is. So we need to update all of our technology, and especially our social media, so that we can get the word out there for the resources that our city needs.
Thank you, Mr. Liu. Next question will begin with you. Why should I vote for you?
Thank you so much for asking. A vote for Johnny Liu would be a vote for integrity and ethics. There's a lot of unspokens here in the city that I'm very quickly learning myself. And as you've noticed today with my answers, they've been very direct, because I am not interested in playing the political game. I am interested in supporting Azusa, all of us. With my background as a counselor for 10 years, what I'm doing when I'm knocking on doors for the last 2 months is listening. And I don't know about you, but when I find a problem, I'm compelled to find a solution, especially one that is effective and efficient and available now. I'm tired of, after the election, we're going to solve homelessness. You won't hear me say that. I will bring solutions now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Liu. Mr. Gonzalez, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, thank you. Thank you. It's a great question. And as I knock on thousands of doors, the sentiment to the true community has always been, we want to keep the face of Azusa as is. We want to continue moving Azusa forward. But we trust your leadership. Sitting in this seat for the past 15 years has been entrusted. I've been entrusted by the community. And a lot of that is trust. And so as I talk to members, community members, it's just part of the whole dynamic of the issue of how we move forward and survived. I've only been a mayor technically for a year and a half. When I swore in 2020, we were playing defense. We were playing survival. And what we've been able to accomplish as a council has been absolutely tremendous. I didn't get to be mayor for 2 full years, right? We were playing defense. So that's why you should vote for me, because of my consistency and my integrity and my availability. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Next question will begin with you. Please share your ideas and plans for keeping our schools safe. What steps will you take to implement, if any?
Well, that's a great question. And obviously not being on the school board and having and it is a school question, is having relationships with the school board. I sit on the ad hoc committee with 2 council members, with 2 school board members. And the line of communication that we have with the elected body there is dire. It needs to happen. And so as we keep public safety, we have no problem saying, Azusa Unified School District, you need our officers. You need our support. And not just our officers, but logistically. When we had the pandemic and the school board was using the streets for their lunch programs, our police officers handled that logistically to help the residents for the lunches during the pandemic. So it's a partnership. It's not one entity over it, because we share the same community. And I believe that the partnership with the school district, in my aspect, has always been good and will continue to be good as the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Mr. Liu, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, it's okay. I see members of our school board in this very room. Thank you so much for your work with our school board. School safety and safety in general is a much larger issue, as we know. One of the specific ways we can handle this is increasing resources. For example, even just building maintenance, or this idea that roofs are leaking, or it's 100+ degrees and there's still no air conditioning. I understand that we're talking about school safety here. However, the physical safety outside of the parameters of, let's say, something terrible to happen, as far as violence goes, we have to make sure that our buildings are safe for our children. As far as the counterparts of what we've seen in the horrific instances here nationwide, we have to make sure that there are community officers and liaisons for our schools and with the PD. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Liu. Staying on the theme of public safety, we are seeing an increased amounts of nuisance crimes, package theft, Cadillac converters. Considering the police shortage and resources stretched thin, what would you do to propose to help mitigate these problems?
Right. So without increasing our police budget, we have to address overtime. What's happening is we pay 1 officer the amount of 2 officers. And I understand that hiring is very difficult. However, there are tiers of hiring. What if we had community officers? If you speak to our police department, you'll see that they're responding, and they have to be the jack of all trades, anywhere from truancy calls to bomb threats. Well, using the same amount of budget, we can increase patrol, increase safety, just by making sure that we are diversifying the resources that we have for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Liu. Mr. Gonzalez, would you like me to repeat the
Yes,
question?
please. Yes, please. Thank you.
We are dealing with increased amounts of nuisance crimes, package theft, Cadillac converters. The police shortage and resources are stretched thin. What would you propose to help mitigate these problems?
Well, and I believe Councilmember Mendez mentioned it before. Obviously, we know with the lacks of the district attorney putting away nuisance crime folks that are causing these small petty crimes. But for our police officers and things that we're seeing, I do believe that the Neighborhood Watch program was very successful. I think folks now, with technology that we have, they're doing a pretty good job of recognizing, hey, somebody's on our block, somebody's on your porch. So those things we can maximize because, like I said, my cop will take 2-3 minutes to get to a situation, but your phone can get to somebody in 4 seconds, right? So I think community engagement is always key with neighborhood watches. I remember a number of years ago in Riverdale, we had a tow provider light up the streets as they were under construction in the evening, so folks were not robbing the houses. But as a catalytic converter program, last September, we did emphasize that program to the community.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Mr. Gonzalez's next question will begin with you. How is the Recovery Act monies distributed? How much money has been distributed for homelessness and how?
Well, and that's a great question. And to correct my opponent, we directly took ARPA money, the 1.9, which we were allowed to do under federal law, to use it specifically for that. It only can be used specifically for that. We can't use it for any other purpose but for homeless. So we took the 1.9 million with the ARPA money. Then we put the other monies into our general fund, and we were able to subsidize some of these other programs that you're seeing. But we also were able to take care of some of the employees, our employers, because of the fact that they had to, they were all essential workers, but we didn't want to separate the working classes amongst essentials versus non-essentials. So we gave everybody something we called appreciation pay. And because we put in a general fund, every single employee got a $1,000 thank you bonus, per se, because they had to deal with the pandemic over in 2020. So we wanted to thank our workforce for all the hard work they did during the pandemic.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Mr. Liu, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, it's okay. It would have been nice to receive an $8,000 appreciation for running a small business here. And I know many other small business owners and also people struggling to live here in Azusa just by meeting their essential needs that would have loved the $8,000. Believe me when I say I do believe in paying people properly. So I'm not making any statement about what we're paying our city officials, though you do have to notice that those contracts have been renegotiated since 2020, and many of them have gotten 10 to 40% more pay since 2020. I know we're talking about the homeless, and I know we're talking about the American Rescue Plan, but like I was saying, 1.9 earmarked for small businesses was instead given into the general fund. We needed that for our community, not for the general fund.
Thank you, Mr. Liu. We're down to our last few questions, and then we'll go into closing statements. These are around rent control. Do you see Azusa limiting the percentage an owner can increase their rent?
In short, yes. I do believe in rental assistance, and I absolutely believe in coming to the table and asking the staff to flush this out. If you look at neighboring cities such as Pomona, they're even helping you. It's called a gap loan. If you cannot afford your first home as a first-time home buyer, the city of Pomona will help you reach that goal if you are a Pomona resident. Could you imagine if we had that here in Azusa? But instead, what we hear all over social media are, help, I'm being priced out of my own apartment. And yet, there's no even conversation centering around rent control. I'm not even saying we have to adopt anything, right? I'm saying we need to discuss because we are bleeding as a community and we need help to live here.
Thank you, Mr. Liu. Mr. Gonzalez, would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Do you see Azusa limiting their percentage an owner can increase their rent?
There's the discussion always of rent control and what other cities are doing. it comes down to, quite frankly, the landlord and working with that landlord on utilities and subsidies that are offered to him that can downplay that to his tenants. But at the end of the day, it's private property. It's home ownership. And what the landlord is charging is the landlord's prerogative. You have to also remember, let's look at what we're at right now. These landlords have not got any rent for the past 2.5 years. And for us to have that discussion, it would be unfair to the landlord to say, well, look, I flipped the bill for my tenant to be in there because we did pass a moratorium here in the city of Azusa. We did help our tenants with rent control. Actually, we not even allow them to be evicted. So for the comment of us not caring or understanding, that's not a true statement. We just did an RSO for the mobile home parks, which we had 30 years ago, and we just amended that recently. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Last question will begin with you. Responsible city spending. What will be prioritized when so many people in the community are struggling financially?
Well, and you've heard it all tonight that we have $13 million that are going back into the community. So you're going to be able to touch and feel. I come from a mayor, and I love Joe if you're out there, that came from an aspect of, do we want it or do we need it? And for years we've lived off that philosophy. Do we want it or need it? Now we're in the position financially to get what we want. We can finally get the things. We can upgrade our senior center that's been badly, detained, or the library. Just my relationships alone with some of our legislators, we have gotten us over close to $10 million from the legislators, so we don't have to use our money. We're using the state's money for a lot of these projects. So I'm happy of where we're going, but we also have to make sure that we're putting away for a rainy day. We don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. And so we need to put these monies away for our future obligations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Mr. Liu?
Thank you. I have almost an opposite feel for city budget. I do believe that it comes also with the health of the budget of our people. So, for example, one of the main things I had trouble with was learning that our trash services, Athens, overnight, their contract was extended from 8 years to 20 years. You know, there's a 10% increase cap per year, and by 2026, we will be paying double what we paid last year for our trash. How this all ties in with the city budget is this idea that we keep taxing us, fees, etc., selling out our citizens in order to line city pockets. And what I would want to do is make sure that the money goes back to the people, and I want to make sure that these incentives go to help.
Thank you, Mr. Liu. We'll be starting our closing statement portion. As a reminder, this is 2 minutes. You will hear a soft bell at 1 minute and then the final bell at 2 minutes. We started our opening statement with Mr. Gonzalez. Mr. Liu will be beginning closing statements with you.
Great. Thank you so much. Azusa, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for attending today. My name is Johnny Liu. I've been a proud citizen of Azusa for 17 years. Like I was saying, I am an immigrant, and I have been compassionately moved when I've been speaking with you all. The stories in which you've all been sharing and the struggles are real. Please, please know that the number one thing we can do is vote on November 8th. Tonight, there's been some things shared, some statements even made by my opponent, which I've never imagined I would hear, such as, oh, the true community. I'm not sure what that means. After 17 years, I hope I'm a true member of this community. And other questions have been referencing the fact that we have felt marginalized. A vote for Johnny Liu would be one of inclusivity, one of ethics and transparency, Where is our money going, and what are we doing with our surplus? What are the ideas? How come everything is so generalized? I will also tell you I have specific plans all on my website, johnnyforazusa.com. My name is Johnny Liu. I'm a candidate for the City of Azusa mayor, and I look forward to representing you when elected. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Liu. If we can hold our applause. Mr. Gonzalez, your closing statement, please.
Thank you, thank you. And once again, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters and the Chamber of Commerce for hosting this forum this evening. I'd like to thank all the audience that took the time to be here, especially during the Dodger game, so we appreciate it. Don't have a closing statement other than, what we're hearing this evening. A lot of I, a lot of me. Government doesn't work that way. Government does not work that way. I used to be naive as well 15 years ago. I'm going to do this. Me, I'm going to do that. It doesn't work that way. Government, your tax dollars do not work overnight. It's not because it doesn't want to be. It's because it's a process. And it's not a knock. It's not excluding, but quite frankly, the face of this community and where we're going, you need to know our history, our culture, of where we were to where we're going. At the end of the day, I'm left inspired by our momentum. I won't play the doom. I won't play the doom and gloom card. We're going to stay positive. We're going to keep moving Azusa forward, and I look forward to serving another 2 years as your mayor. I'm happy with my council members, current, and I know they're going to be reelected, and we're going to continue moving Azusa forward. And so with that, I want to thank all of you again for being here tonight. I'm excited on where Azusa's, where we're going, and the proposals and the assessments and just the work that I promised I would do 2 years ago is leveraging my relationships with the legislature, with the congresswoman, with the supervisor. And we have cashed in on those as a community, which you're going to see the benefits from in the very near future. So thank you for being here this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, your candidates for mayor, Mr. Robert Gonzalez and Mr. Johnny Liu. At this time, we are adjourned. We thank you for taking time out of your busy afternoon, probably missing a Dodger game from what I understand, but thank you for joining us this afternoon and becoming a little bit more informed. Thank you.